Hey everyone, Michael Venus back here again. How's it going with y'all? Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting my channel. Thanks for being here with me once again, for believing in our project. Let's go ahead and continue our work here, our project, for this very extensive little project we have ahead of us, right? We did the character's anatomy. Now we're doing the costume design, the character's whole outfit. We've already done the crown. Now we're going to move on to the accessory, right, that he has here on his shirt. And there's a lot of stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, please. It helps us a lot. Helps the channel a lot, okay? Without further ado, let's get into another video. Let's go. Here, I used the crucifix as a reference, right? And I did the same thing as with the crown. I take the reference and I'm drawing over it, okay? Different from the tiara, right? Where I took a tiara and just used the structure to help me get oriented. Here I'm actually drawing directly on top of the character. Why? I could take this character and finish it directly in a vector program, which is where I'm going to finalize it. But you saw that the image is a bit blown out. It's not a well-defined image. There are a lot of shadows and highlights on it. And also, since it's a statue, I wouldn't really have much of an idea, more or less, of where to make each line, which elements to use from this reference. So I prefer to draw over it. First, I prefer to make a sketch to see how it turns out. Then I work from that sketch because it's easier, especially since in the sketch the lines are defined, right? It's different from working directly on the photo because you don't really have much sense of it. How you would solve certain things here, like the hair, the crown of thorns, and everything else. So it's always good for us to make this layout. You can see that I'm making a layout here, but I draw, erase, which is perfectly normal because I really need to get a much better sense of exactly how this is all going to look in the end, right? I want to make sure I understand the full visual impact before we continue, because it's going to have a jewel-like texture, really like a precious stone. So we have to think about all of that, about the language, the approach we're going to use for the character, for the element. So sketching first is much easier for us. If I were actually doing this on a physical piece of paper, I could easily do the following. I could draw this out on a much larger sheet of paper, just like I am demonstrating for you right here. I would take this photo, place it behind the sheet and redraw over it. And then I would make a photocopy, so to speak, or a copy, print a smaller version so I could draw it at the actual size I want, whether on the screen or on paper, wherever I plan to paint. I always mention these things, folks, because I know not everyone here draws in Photoshop, right? Sometimes you'll be drawing on paper and you can do it, okay? You just have to use your head, use your imagination, and you'll always find a way. When I started working with drawing, I remember we didn't have computers yet. We still worked with paper sheets. I've always worked with animation. And there we used to do it a lot like this. Sometimes we would draw and then make a copy or a Xerox, shrink the element we wanted to clean up or add to the character anyway, so there's always a way to make it work, okay? Here I'm already working on it. The character's body, always based on the reference. Sometimes I bulk it up a bit to make it a little more defined, a little thicker. Because as I said, this is a project. This is an element that's going to become a piece of jewelry, right? It's going to become a piece. So sometimes the reference you use doesn't always look right when you give it a different interpretation, you know? The shape sometimes doesn't turn out the way you want it to. So you end up making some adjustments to all of this, you know? I'm not sure if I'm being clear. So you can cheat a little, make the triceps more defined, the forearm a bit bulkier, and do the same with the back, make it a little more robust, okay? And always keep in mind the final result you want to achieve, okay? So having this kind of planning is always good. Okay, so here always making the markings, see? I like to carefully create all of these specific markings because when I go to finalize the final version of the drawing and when I retrace the entire piece using vector software, I'll have significantly less work and a much easier task to complete. And especially for these parts, like for example, the knee, how would that be supported, right? How would that look like this? I try to imagine it. Of course, it won't turn out exactly the same. I'm not a jewelry designer, but I have to think of a way for this to at least make a reference, make it so that when someone looks at it, they say, wow, it really was made like a gemstone, like a piece of jewelry. When it's finished, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Then you'll see. And even while making this thing, this allusion to jewelry, I draw here as if I were drawing normally a regular body, a normal anatomy. Then later, I give it that jewelry design when I retrace it in the vector program. And then I make more geometric shapes and so on, just the way I like it. As I said, I like to draw here first instead of tracing directly from the photo because the photo is it doesn't have much definition, right? And when you have things more defined, it turns out much better. So we do these workarounds, making these adjustments. See, I like to do everything separately, the body, the head, the hair. Okay. That's very important. This makes all the difference, and it really makes the process of doing things much easier. Always on a separate layer, okay? Separate everything into layers, because this will make your process, your project much easier. Okay? See how good it is to draw first? All of this is on separate layers, okay? This little line I'm making to define the curls is already on another layer. This hair is on another layer and so on. Always having, how do you say it? As you keep drawing, you'll start to get a sense of it, okay? As I said in the other drawings, it's practice that will sharpen you for this kind of interpretation. The more things, the more drawings you do like this, accessories, clothing, the more you'll get familiar with folds, creases, and how things drape, okay? Here we have to more or less follow, I'm trying to more or less follow the way the statue is giving me these shapes. And then, as I said, when it's time to finish, that's when I define the lines more. Okay? You can see that here it's already a little more complex. See how with this fabric thing, you need to have a certain sense for it? It's a matter of observation, you see? It's all a matter of observation. The more you draw, the more you already, but you'll start to get a sense of where each fold is and how each one looks. Even if you don't draw directly from this statue reference, you'll start to pick up the whole process, Eventually, you'll gradually begin to master all the subtle tricks of the trade. It is really all about the way you interpret. At least I believe that is the right word to use, interpret. From this photo to the line work, okay? From the drawing to the line work. So don't get frustrated if things don't work out right away, because anatomy isn't easy and clothing isn't easy either. You won't learn it overnight, but by practicing all the time, every artistic endeavor requires. All artistic excellence and perfection comes from practice. If you don't practice, you won't be able to make this interpretation. So I say to you, practice, okay? You saw that I'm making some adjustments without the reference. You notice that I made his leg a little longer than the statue's. I added some length there because I think it looks better, all right? And that's it. Well, folks, we've just finished another part of our character's costume design. You saw that we use a lot of references here. It's impossible not to use references in these. In this composition of ours, in this work we chose to do, because, as I said, doing anatomy and doing costumes isn't something easy. Everyone in their own field, right? Some people like to do spaceships, some like to do cars, animals, and our niche is this. And you see, it requires some patience, a certain degree of interpretation and observation skills. Go at your own pace. Watch the videos, observe, rewatch it, and put it at a slower speed how do you say it? If it teaches you better, if you can pick it up better, then put it at a slower speed, but don't stop watching. Don't stop practicing, especially, okay? Like, share, comment, give your opinion here. It's very important to me, okay? So we can help build this channel together. Cool? Thank you so much. Thanks. See you later. Bye.